Hi there. Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow and scale your business. In this episode, I had a discussion with Jeff Roberts. Jeff is a founder and a CEO of Innovation Vista, a leading IT consultancy he established in 2019. With over 30 years of experience, including 5 CIO roles, he has led numerous mergers, digital transformations, and IT turnarounds. Under his leadership, Innovation Vista's network of 450 plus C-level experts has driven 2.6 billion in client results, earning repeatedly recognition as a number one US CIO service provider. This was very interesting discussion. Since Jeff and I came from a similar industry, so we had a discussion on various topics around the business, leadership, and technology. Jeff outlined servant leadership and strategic IT innovations for mid-sized organizations. He champions innovation beyond efficiency, urging companies to leverage AI, data, automations, and digital transformation, not just for cost saving, but to drive revenue growth. If you are a business owner or any leadership position, don't miss this discussion. You don't need to solve all the IT problems because you hire experts to do that, but understanding what challenges IT departments are up against and how to solve some of these problems will not only help you to deal with the IT departments, it will also help you to use technology and IT department as a tool to grow your revenue and get that competitive advantage in this economy. So hope you enjoyed this discussion as much I did. If you like these conversations, don't forget to send us your feedback, subscribe to this channel, and until next time, please welcome Jeff Roberts. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today our guest is Jeff Roberts. Jeff, you and I came from same industry, so there's so much to learn in this industry. You have a lot of years of experience, a lot of wisdom. So I'm looking forward to learning from you, looking forward to our discussion. Thank you so much for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation to join.
Okay. So, I'm hoping, Jeff, from these discussions that, we can provide business owners some perspective, how they need to look at technologies. That definitely gets a lot of people confused. And also, I'm hoping to provide some sort of insight to the people who are IT professional who are trying to build a career in IT. That is I'm hoping. What are you hoping to achieve from our next 35-40 minutes of discussion?
Yeah, I hope give your audience some interesting food for thought. My perspective, I don't know everything, but what I do know, I'm happy to share and discuss. I love the angle of career IT people
Mm-hmm.
and suggestions for them. It's a topic that I've been discussing with colleagues lately with the advent of AI and um, what people are predicting will happen in terms of really not just IT, but all white collar work is sort of under a cloud right now of confusion and how far will AI go? Sort of huge lingering question in the landscape. So love that, and so I've got maybe some thoughts on that, and then you know applying some business mindset to
Yeah.
innovation for small and mid-sized companies. That's what we do all day, every day.
Okay, so let's start from there. So let's talk about Innovation Vista. How did you start it and what is all about? If you just walk us through, what do you guys do there?
Sure. Uh, so I started the firm in 2019. Came to this after a career as a CIO for mid-sized companies, generally finance and real estate. The last company that I was a CIO for was acquired by a very large multinational.
Sure.
And very clear from the outset of that transaction, there was not going to be a chair for me, an interesting chair at least, when the music stopped. So I had this nice situation with transitioning our technology and helping the acquirer on board, things that we had built that were pretty strategic that they were interested in keeping
Mm-hmm.
and moving to their platform. But at the same time, that was sort of a ramp down, and I had the benefit of a lot of schedule flexibility and so forth in the final months, which allowed me to ramp up at the same time, my preparation for Innovation Vista. So that's how I came to this. I had the idea that small and mid-sized companies could benefit from CIO guidance, and so many of them don't feel like they have the budget to hire one.
Yeah.
So that was the core of the idea is look, let's do some fractional services. Let's give some insights. The whole, 100% of the expertise for a fraction of the cost. Um, the fractional sort of benefit, I guess, for clientele. And COVID hit right after I started the firm. So it was interesting. All of the early traction that I had ink on the page for an engagement and got a call from the CFO of that company right after he signed, basically saying, uh, look, the executive
Yeah.
team all weekend long, everyone's scared to come into the office. We don't know which end is up. It's not the right time to do some kind of digital transformation strategy work or anything really innovative or optional. And that happened with everyone. All discretionary spend stopped, everything. So in the consulting world, none of us could talk to clients or prospects. And so I used that time in spring and summer of 2020 to just meet and talk to freelance CIOs.
Hmm.
And so the strategy began to come into focus that, you know, rather than building a bench of consultants that I go find work for in the traditional
Hmm.
sort of model, I decided to build a virtual team where I would identify, really qualified expert consultants, pre-vet them, if you will, like understand their approach, their skills, their background, their industry experience, projects, just understand them and the services they could provide, and then have that as a directory of resources that I could match to client projects as they came in. So that's how we operate. That's how that since 2020 we've been operating in that way. We are up to 450 consultants now. I probably
Wow.
knew 60 when I started the firm. We
Hmm.
got to 300 pretty quickly with all that effort in 2020, and now 450. And that really gives us just nice breadth and depth for finding the perfect fit for each client project.
Very interesting. Yeah, kudos to you. You use the time in a different ways, but at least you made a lot of progress there. But let's start with the you having a discussion with business. So if I'm a business, is it a top level discussion? That's where everything start, Jeff, or is it a mid level where you having a discussion with the internal CTOs or IT directors, IT manager? Is it always strategy level for the president and CEO of the
Yeah.
companies?
I mean, we're focused on C-level services. It's always one or the other of those. It's more often the CEO or CFO, COO, um,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, business executives who are trying to maybe bring in an expert that they don't have in the building today. There's a lot of companies in the mid-market. We consider mid-market like 10 million up to a billion revenue. There are a lot of companies that are either relying on a vendor for their IT services, or they have an IT manager or an IT director that is an internal person, but really focused mainly on keeping the lights on
Yeah.
and keeping the hackers away, which is great. And
Yeah.
those are table stakes today. You've got to have reliable IT, and you've got to avoid the breaches and the hacks, of course. But it's really just table stakes, right? There's no competitive advantage in a lot of these companies. They don't see IT contributing to their top line. It's not part of the conversation when they're trying to land new customers.
Yeah.
And so we help them find those opportunities. So it just the strategic nature of that, it ends up being typically a business leader. Every now and then we have a CIO, CTO who engages us, and that is usually like special project leadership. We're working on one right now that's a merger and acquisition. That's fairly common, where they don't want to hand that to a project manager level staff
Hmm.
person. There's a lot of diplomacy needed in an M&A event.
Yeah.
A lot of delicate, culture overlaps and culture conflict and expectations management, things like that. So we get involved in those. We get involved in enterprise systems projects. We're hired by
Yeah.
CIOs a lot of times for that, ERP, CRM, HCM, um, just
Yep.
because they're so complex. But that's the exception, really. Most of the time, it is sort of a wide
Yeah.
technology
Anything the
or
business require. So
yeah,
you mentioned a lot of interesting point. I want to unpack a couple of them. So, but let me start from a business side of things. You meet a lot of business executive owners, C-level people. If I'm a business owner, you can use me as an example. So what I don't understand about technology, our business is first we gotta educate what you need, and then we gotta deliver the result afterwards, right?
yes,
What do
sir.
you wish they understand when you meet them, and what is that? What do you have to change? If I'm a business owner, what I'm not looking at right, what I'm not looking properly, that I'm missing some points that you have to educate me when you come in.
That's a great question. Yeah, and it's a good word. I spend a lot of time educating
Okay.
prospects, and even just the market in general in order to get prospects, right? I would say the main thing to answer your question is this idea that IT can contribute to competitive advantage. Um, and that's strange to say, right? Depending on your industry,
Okay.
some industries they don't think that way. Companies have been profitable for years and decades in some cases without it. It's a utility, it's a back office function. They're happy if you're keeping the lights on and keeping the hackers
It's
away.
been running. It's been running
And
for a long
yeah,
time.
and they feel like that's success, and hey, just do it for as cheap as you possibly can, and we're good. And sadly, there are a lot of IT leaders even who have that mindset as well about what the job
That's a
is.
sad. That's a
Um,
sad
so
part.
so that's the education, right? Is
Yeah.
that probably did apply up through 2010, 2015. You could say even up to the AI revolution, depending on how you measure that. 3 years ago, let's call it that, with sort of mainstream LLMs coming to the market and giving output that started raising eyebrows with people. Wow, this is now real. Um, IT is driving market share. It's driving revenue. We find brand new revenue streams for clients where they can sell an upgrade for an AI wizard on their product, or we can empower their sales teams with some deep insights about their customers and predictive, modeling to know what to offer them in what ways and what times and what packages that will raise their revenue. Um, and it helps with market share. Just, I think in general, especially since COVID, everyone's expectations about how they can interact with companies. That's every company. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if it's B2C, B2B, government, nonprofit, even. They are expecting things that they never used to expect. They're
Yeah.
expecting there's some kind of customer portal where they can
Yeah.
log in and see what's going on and not have to pick up the phone or send an email every time they're curious about the status of something. So
Okay.
all of those things can, in some industries, people are now playing defense. We're in
Yeah.
2025. We just did an analysis we do every year of kind of looking at the maturity in different industries of especially how they use data analytics and AI, and it's increasing. And so in some industries, it's the laggards now that haven't done it that need to, or they run the risk of being put out of business or being acquired um, for a
Mm-hmm.
price that the owners are not going to be happy with. I'll put it that way. They're
Yeah.
basically acquired in a lot of these industries for the value of their customer database,
Got it. Got it.
which is
Yeah,
nowhere near the enterprise value that a lot of them feel they have. It's just melting away
yeah.
if they can't match on technology capability. So that's a long answer to your question, but
No, no,
education, just knowing that it's possible, just
yeah,
coming to that realization that if we have unique IT, we can win more business.
exactly.
That in itself is a huge hurdle. I will say, I mean, we have leaders in every sort of age, generation category. I will say, I feel like for understandable reasons, older executives and older business owners struggle more with thinking that way because it was not a part of their training coming up in their career. It
Yeah.
hasn't been a part of their business, and a lot of them have very successful businesses that they've had for, like I said, years and decades of time. They haven't needed strategic IT. Now
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, that's a great point you mentioned, Jeff, is if I'm a business owner and we finished the COVID and we still have a lot of economic challenges. So if I'm going to increase my top line, I'm trying to increase the revenue in my company. I cannot overlook look technology. I gotta be able to, this is an area that it could be my greatest asset if I'm going to increase the revenue. So, for me, if I'm having a challenges in other areas, definitely technology can take me there, whatever the numbers I'm going trying to grow my top line for revenue.
Yeah, no, it's well said. And that's a realization that more and more are coming to, but there still are a lot of CEOs um, that don't grasp that yet in the
So what is
mid-market.
the hesitation? Let's talk about that hesitation. What is the hesitation? Why business, if we already talked about that, listen, this is the one of that area you cannot overlook. You gotta make a decision. You need to use technology for your competitive advantage.
Yeah,
it's the cheapest item you can use, for the very affordable cost. And technology doesn't come with a lot of cost to get to so what is the hesitation you notice that on a business leader's part, whether it's a business owner or a CEO, that they hesitant to make a decision or get involved in a technology strategy? And as soon as technology comes, as you mentioned, it's not that their stronger side. So they're hesitant to get into instead of, you know, talking to somebody like you and simply say, listen, help me out with this area and take me there.
yeah. Yeah, there's several flavors of it, I think, the skepticism. Um, some of it is just this natural feeling everyone has that our business is different. They think it's unique. They think that the special sauce that they have is the reason that they've been successful. A lot of them, it's process oriented, people oriented, more so than technology. Um, and not to discount those things, those are real, and they can still contribute. But I think the blind spot is if you have something that's led to your growth that you couldn't also benefit from something else. And the something else being technology is really growing every single year in terms of its importance and like I said before, in terms of customers' expectations. So a lot of them, their success is their own weakness, right? And they're like, well, we've grown, 30% a year and we haven't needed this, so why do we need it today? The world is different. That's the answer. Other skepticism, there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of hype, and what I'm saying could sound like hype to people. Um, it's this amazing capability, and you just flip this switch, license this software. It solves all these problems for you automatically, right? Like it's too much in a lot of cases, and AI at the top of the list right now. Enormous hype around AI. There's all these studies of the percentages of projects that don't yield ROI, et cetera, et cetera. I can only say we see ROI in our projects. I think we're
Yeah.
very careful about gauging feasibility, and really feasibility and cost are just strategic to understanding what's possible in AI. And that's a line that's moving because
Hmm.
things become cheaper and they become more powerful, but it's not everything. And I think a lot of the AI hype has disappointed because not enough attention has been paid to data. data engineering, data centralization, data enrichment, data cleansing, just data management in general, treating data as a strategic asset of the organization. Not
Mm-hmm.
very many companies do that. And if you don't do that, but you try to do AI, it's going to
Yeah.
fail.
Yeah.
It's going to yield false positive, false negatives. It's going to lose credibility. Then you get the negative cycle of, okay, now you've wasted all this money and it gives output that you can't use. And that really dampens the excitement, I think, for a lot of people, which
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, we're happy it doesn't dampen the excitement for everyone. Some people still see the potential.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is just our process maybe makes people more comfortable that we're
Mm-hmm.
going to end up identifying real use cases. And it's actually things that will help the organization and the ROI we come up with. There's all that about cost and feasibility, which is where our technical expertise comes in. But on the business side, we're very collaborative to understand from them, how will it help you? How many people do
Yeah.
you have performing this function today? What are the exceptions to the rule? What do you need to have a human in the loop of the process, or do you want to have full AI automation? And so, I think a lot of firms don't do that, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of news stories about failed projects as a result of that. And so executives read that and they say, this is just it's either not for us, or they say it's not for us yet, and they're waiting to see, their competitors do something. And that's unfortunate because they're missing the chance in a lot of these industries, if they feel that way, to be
Yeah.
the first mover. And the first mover wins just enormous market share so much of the time. So yeah, the skepticism comes in different flavors for sure. Um, some of it, we talk to some industries where they feel like they're a people business, right? That's another flavor we hear. Yeah, this is great, maybe back office efficiencies, but we're a people business, and we can't ever like put a chat bot in front of our customers or have AI really improve our capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we probe that and say, okay, really, so do customers ever sort of email in or call in and want to check the status of what's going
Yeah.
on with their projects? Do they ever ask you to predict, like, when do you think it'll be done? How much do you think it'll cost? How do you think this is going to look? Those are things that technology can help.
Yeah. And
And
do it in no
by the way, I'm
time.
sure you're very,
And do it in no
yeah.
time. And we're very quick. So, uh,
Yeah, and self-service. So much of it is that self-serve. Like they can log into their bank, they can
yeah.
log into their restaurant, they can log in all these places. Um, it's for the plumbing supply company. They think they're so different. Like, yeah, people don't need that from us. Like, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. And
They
especially in
will
this
come.
case,
It
especially in
it
this case.
matters so much, and it again, it's that education and overcoming that skepticism. I could talk for hours about this,
So,
Gurmeet,
so for
honestly, because
if
it's
I'm a
every day
business,
for me.
yeah. So if I'm a business owner, either I can make a decision to get there, and start implementing this happening technologies out there, or I can wait for my customers to push me to get there because my customers at one point is gonna push me because they're so used to it using it somewhere else. So choice is that either I do it or I'm gonna be pushed by vendors or customers. Then I'm gonna do it, and but there's a
Yeah,
cost to it, right? And
yeah,
and that's what the point I was trying to make. There's a cost of not making a decision. You mentioned that it's not the right time, and I've seen a lot of that happening with a business owner. Simply keep adding a time to that to make a decision. I can't make a decision. I'm going to add more time to it, 6 months, one
right.
year, and then that gets behind. But there is a cost of no making decision. Like delayed decision is also a decision on their part, right? I think a lot of people don't understand. Not making decisions is a decision that I'm not going to make a decision, and there's a cost to it.
Yeah. No, it's 100%. And look, there's a place in business strategy for being a fast follower, right? So let's just have our eyes open and realize if that's
Yeah,
what we're doing, okay, that's fine. That's why we do our industry survey and we look at, maturity levels of different capabilities in different sectors. Because if you're doing that, you got to keep your antenna up to make sure when someone starts to move in your space and you see, okay, they've created this now, we need to do something or we are at risk. And that's, it's playing defense a little bit, but if you're purposefully watching and you're ready in the starting blocks to jump on something, that can be an effective business strategy. I think the
Hmm.
only form of strategy in this that isn't effective is the head in the sand altogether, not watching the landscape, not being in the starting blocks and being ready to do something. And then when you hear that your competitors have built something, by that time, if you have zero kind of starting capital or capabilities, you're very likely going to end up out of business. And people don't
Yeah.
realize this. And it's sad. And there are companies that have existed for decades that have ended up being sold again for the value of their customer database. Basically, and maybe to hire their people, like an acqui-hire kind of acquisition. And that doesn't give the owner I mean, it's not zero, but it doesn't
Yeah.
give the owner anything like what they think their company is worth. And so that's a huge theme of our education is not to sell by fear, but just to make them realize that is the landscape.
Yeah.
This is not, overplaying it to say companies will go out of business because they're slow to adopt or they refuse to adopt technology. It's happening already, and it's happening at different speeds in different industries. But
Yeah.
just look around and
Yeah, I think one of the challenges I see that, Jeff, and you mentioned that a little bit on the process side is, many, many years ago, there used to be a business process that, what we need to do in a business, and then technology process was separate. Then a technology process, what we need to in technology. This day and age, these are not a two different process. These are, you cannot name one process that does not interact with the technology in a business, right? So a lot of business where I see that they are when they're working on a process, they're working technology and business together because they both are the different the two sides of the same coin. You cannot separate these two. Coming from a
great point.
mindset, the business process is different than technology process is different. That's what I think hold a lot of people back. But understanding that, listen, I need to work technology side by side of business, and these companies have somebody like you on a table when they're making decision. And I think that's a culture I see the winning culture in a lot of companies where they have somebody when they make a business process decisions, they have somebody from a technology background, so they make that decision together. That's my
Yes.
finding. What do you find when
Oh,
successful companies with the making those winning strategies?
it's so well said, Gurmeet. And a lot of companies are not doing that because all the dynamics we talked about before of what's in the mind of business executives. The other problem is what's in the mind of IT managers, right? If they think their job is lights on, keep the hackers away, keep the cost down, period, end of
How do
story.
you win? How do you win with that? Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that they're going to care about is those metrics. And we hear all the time about IT leaders, even CIOs and CTOs, honestly, say to me personally a lot, I don't have a seat at the table. The business leaders go and they do things, and we hear about it after the fact. And this merger and acquisition is a good example. The big strategic things. And so my turnaround to them is, well, what do you talk about when you talk about things with that
Yeah.
executive team?
Yeah.
And when's the last time you went into the CFO's office and had ideas about automating costs out of the organization or ways that we could win, or go to the CRO and ask them, how much would technology move the needle? Are you losing deals because we don't have customer portals and predictive utilities and things like that?
Put a number
Uh,
on it. Put a number on
yeah,
it.
and they don't think that way, and
Yeah.
therefore it's this negative cycle where, okay, now IT doesn't think that way. The business leaders don't think that it's possible or important or relevant for them, and so there's this collective blind spot. So your question is so great. Of the companies that are doing it right, they have embedded someone strategic. If they don't have that person on staff, or maybe they're a company that's dependent mostly on vendors for their IT support, that's okay. I mean, I have it on my on
But if
my
I'm a vendor,
label
my
right here.
job, if I'm a vendor, my goal is to sell the products, right? I'm not going to invest time understanding your business process, your business strategy. What are you trying to do? I
100%.
got a product to sell. I'm going to sell the products. Doesn't matter how it fits in.
Yeah.
That is so objectives are different. The goals are different. The
Yeah.
mindset is different.
So true. And we make that point with a lot of people who are dependent on vendors. An MSP will sometimes offer a virtual CIO service.
Hmm.
And we tell them, look, that's like the fox guarding the hen house. Okay. If you get
That's a
your
good
guidance,
analogy.
this
Yeah.
is a company that is motivated to keep their costs down and their profits up. They want to reduce the risk of change and disruption because that's what gets them in trouble and gets them fired.
Hmm.
Status quo, keeping things running, keeping the hackers away, keeps them, their clients pay their invoices every month and everything is fine. So let's keep it as simple and unchanging as possible. And
Yeah.
we tell companies like that is the opposite of how you should be thinking in 2025.
That's you.
It's the
Hmm.
opposite. And so I have this label in my Zoom, the CIO IQ.
Yeah.
This is our answer to that. And even if you're dependent on a vendor, and even if you have that IT manager that is very infrastructure operations, cyber focused person, for less than $1,000 a week, you can engage a C-level expert who does things strategically, who's made it through our filter process,
Hmm.
who's familiar with the client's industry, and who can be on these calls and read these documents and help them think strategically about IT and AI.
Yeah.
And that's our question for customers is who is thinking that way? If you have a leader already and they have a seat at the table and your entire C-suite is sort of brought up to speed on what's possible, what's expensive, what's cheap, what's feasible, great. But if you don't, again, it's 2025 and you don't want to be late to the party because the party is moving and you will be left behind.
Yeah.
So that for less than 1,000 a week. So
Yeah.
I have a biased opinion, obviously, that that's the best money that a company could spend, but it
There should be
truly
no
is.
cost. It's almost there's
It's
no cost to it.
that expertise and it's part expertise, but it's really mindset. And it's the thing we talked about in the education theme, right? What is possible? How much impact can there be? And having someone whose job it is, even if they're only fractionally engaged to make it affordable like this, but it's their job to think about how can technology really move the needle for this organization and think strategically about it. It makes all the difference.
I have a saying that when you mentioned the cost, IT services are free. No matter how much time you spend in IT, it's no cost to the business, right? So even you can make a 1% difference in any business process, that's at least 20 times more than you would
Absolutely.
invest. So I think business owners got to think of that way. So I want to touch base on you mentioned something with the IT staff, IT manager, IT. So it's sometimes it's a mind-boggling that these people, IT staff, IT professionals, we get, and I'm one of them, right? So in all the university and colleges, we get trained on a change management probably every single semester, right? Every course we go through, there's a change management, and colleague of ours, IT professional, we are the most resistant to the change when you go in IT department. That's where, it's sometimes it's hard to understand that you guys get trained on change management and you are resistant to the change because you don't want to learn new things.
Yeah.
But definitely that is a one issue. So where you think if we were to and I'm hoping that we can provide some insight to the people who coming into industry, where we were 20 25 years ago. If I was looking back 25 years, what advice could I give it to myself? Listen, look into this way. Look, start thinking about in terms of this, so you would have a better career, better professional in professional career in your lifetime. So what advice
Yeah.
would you give it to these IT folks coming out of universities? What area they need to focus on?
Great question. Um, I think the world is changing faster than it ever has, and it's not slowing down. It'll never again be this slow, if you want to think about it that way. which is
Okay.
shocking to think about. Um, don't be so locked in on a particular technical skill. IT attracts people a lot of times because we like these complicated problems. We like finding a way to
Solving
make
technical
something
problems.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's keyboard work and it's, this mindset of like all these esoteric nuances of these products that I'm going to learn it, I'm going to make it hum, I'm going to optimize it. That's great, okay? People are being paid for those kinds of skills. But I will tell you, just in your mind, fast forward to 10 years from now where code is being written by AI,
yep,
administration of systems is fully automated by AI. You put in the prompt, spin up a new server to do XYZ. I need this amount of horsepower. I want the billing to be the following kind of mode, right?
yep.
It's all heading to AI. So what's left for people? My advice is think about business impact. Think about understanding the business. The reason my career advanced, I'm convinced there were 3 or 4 promotions early in my career. When I first became project manager, when I became a director, VP, senior VP finally, and CIO. Those happened, I'm convinced, at a fairly early age for me because I was the one on the team that was asking the business questions and listening and taking notes and prioritizing based on what will really help and what's a bell and a whistle, not that big of a deal. Um,
Hmm.
and and at a couple of points, I was even willing to make technology kind of less elegant, if you understand what I mean by that.
Yep.
Just architecturally, not what you might want it to be, but for the reason that the solution was exactly what the business needed. And I made that very demonstrable. I made a very big point of saying this is not the way the computer science textbooks would draw this up. Uh, all the professionals
But
working
that's where
on
the
it,
creativity comes in, innovation comes in. So you thinking in terms of
absolutely,
business to drive solution to solve a problem instead of being a
absolutely.
technology focused to do the right thing, what needs to be done.
Absolutely. And the jobs that will advance and the skills we're going to need in this industry are more about that. They're more about the people who are going to write the prompts that lead to the software being built and lead to the administration and infrastructure setup and optimization and all of that, right? So be that person who's making those decisions from a business mindset, not just from a best practice architectural elegance mindset. That's in the equation, all right? And there are benefits and efficiencies from being streamlined on the architecture, but don't do it to the expense of your users. Find
Yeah,
a way to find a solution that really maximizes their impact and their benefit and make sure they know you're doing it.
yeah.
That's my personal suggestion for career growth. Um, Look, I think we have disruption coming. I think there's a lot of people that it will be hard for them to do what I just said.
Hmm.
There'll be a lot of people that like the IT job that just sits at the keyboard and they get their specs every day and okay, here's what I need to go build or test or administer or here's a new ticket in the ticketing system. There are so many jobs where that is what they do that are getting ready to be disrupted in the next call it 3, 5, 10 years. It's not hard to sort of realize what's coming if people just stop and think about it. So the ones who make this mental adjustment now are going to be happy that they did.
So you mentioned a few things very important, Jeff. Those definitely they gotta be business focused, they gotta be solution focused. The mindset has to be right, communication skills have to be right because they have to educate those business stakeholder in a business to move the needle forward in a business. So IT people gotta learn all these skills, whether it's a communication, whether it's a mindset, whether it's all those skills. Business owners on the other side, when they're hiring staff, they need to look for these skill set as well for when they're hiring IT staff. And I see so many times that somebody start very junior level, they keep promoting that somebody was a help desk support, then they promote him to network support, system support, IT manager, IT director, but the skill set is the same, mindset is the same, but the same approach to technology, but they keep promoting it because the guy has been there for so long, for so many years.
Yeah,
What can
it's a great
business
point.
owner do? What can business owner do to test or look for those skill set what you just mentioned that IT people need, and how can they evaluate IT skill set when they're hiring people, building teams to make sure that this is a skill set that's going to move business forward, not IT forward.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a great question. Generally, like when we're vetting consultants or we're helping to interview people, the open-ended questions are really the short answer to your question.
Okay.
Too many technical interviews are, do you know how to do this? Tell me how you would do that. XYZ problem, what's the solution?
Yeah.
It's formulaic and it doesn't unpack the candidate's thought process. If you ask an open-ended question like, "What do you think is the most important thing about XYZ?" Or, um, "What do you think is the optimal usage of your time split between team collaboration, collaborating with users, and keyboard work?" I love that question because you're not in the way you form it giving them any sense of what the right answer is. There may not be a right answer. But if they say to you, I mean, look, you're hiring me for my tech skills, it's probably 95% keyboard work. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'm going to need to interact with users all that much. Maybe 5% with the team and 95%, right? That is an answer you will get from a lot of people, a huge percentage of IT candidates. It's the
Hmm.
wrong answer for the future,
Yeah.
right? What you want to hear is someone who says, I always want to understand how people are using this technology on a daily basis. And is it working for them? Do they have pain points? Do they have things that they're working around that they shake their head every day with? System ought to really be able to do this, but it can't. So here I go with my Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah.
right? That mindset. So asking those open-ended questions really can help. The other thing I would say is about the promotions, you make a great point. Business leaders, I think they think very strategically about business people and their career growth. And they think about cross training and getting them other experiences and having them work, maybe go to formal training, or maybe it's just read this book or go to this conference or watch this webinar, right? Anything, but raise your skills on such. Um, on the tech side, it's less common, and they will promote that help desk person to be help desk manager or
Yeah.
infrastructure manager or even director of IT without ever telling them, hey, by the way, at the next level up, you need to raise your game.
Yeah.
And you need to raise your game in the following ways. Most of it is communication, business sense, understanding. You ought to know by the time you get into management and IT, where do the organization's costs come from? What do those look like? What's the income statement, balance sheet level understanding of that? Where does our revenue come from?
Yeah.
Why do our customers use us instead of a competitor? What is it that we are trying to be? Low cost provider? Great.
Hmm.
Let's make decisions aligned with that. Are we the
Yeah.
white glove Cadillac solution in our industry? Okay, great. Let's make decisions that align with that. And just go as far as you can down that process as a business leader that's making these promotions. Just realize, man, your IT people did not learn any of that in college. They've
Yeah.
not learned any of it in their job up to now. It is it's the biggest blind spot that in one sense it creates opportunities for Innovation Vista. So it frustrates me, but I'm thankful for it. Okay. But yeah, it just the mindset that is out there is wrong. It's incomplete. And I do think that with the AI revolution, gearing up and accelerating, we are going to see the impact of that mindset, and it's going to be ugly
Yeah.
for those that really can't adjust, and they're going to feel like it came out of nowhere, and it hasn't. If you will pay attention to what's happening
Yeah.
and what skills and approaches are really valuable and will be valuable in the future, it's not what you think.
Yeah.
Great point. It's a lot of you and I can have a discussion, and definitely I wanted to get into a couple more things, but we'll park it for part two sometime, Jeff. But I wanted to get into customer expectation change. We definitely, as a new technologies come, we changing customer expectation, our own expectation, and then a training part. How the training something IT folks always resist. I don't want to be more take more training, so we'll park those couple of topics here. But talk by yourself. If I'm a business leader and we're trying to scale a business, how can I connect with you? How can we have a discussion? Where can people find you, Jeff?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We're at innovationvista.com.
Okay.
um, just like you would think it's spelled, and very active on LinkedIn as well. I post every day. I get comments, questions, follow-ups from that. I'm happy to field those. I'm happy to answer questions from our website, even not leading to an engagement or whatever. I mean, we're in business, so we like that, right? But I'm happy to just talk to people and, hey, do you have any suggestions, or do you have a top three solution for this kind of situation that's very unique? I'm happy to engage with people. So the
Yeah.
website, LinkedIn, probably the best ways. And yeah, that we will engage the power of our 450 consultants to
Yeah.
try to get people the best answer we can.
I'm going to include all the links below this video. People can click a button and they can reach out to you and connect with you. Um, but I learned, one of the things I always tell business leaders, you always need a new perspective. You always need to look at things differently. And you and I, we were talking, and even though we're same industry, we always share and we look at things differently. So business leaders were watching, business owners, C-level people are watching. Definitely, I would encourage them to listen, reach out to you, have a conversation. I gain a lot of perspective over discussion. I'm sure they're gonna give different perspectives. So I will strongly recommend. A link's gonna be below this video. They reach out to you for conversation. Who knows where the discussion is gonna go? Maybe that will be the perspective they're looking for a while.
I appreciate that, Gurmeet. And thanks for the conversation today. I agree.
It
You
was
and I could talk for hours, I think, on this.
it was a pleasure. It was a great discussion. Thank you so much for time, Jeff.
Thank you.